Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to the Reptile Barn. I've got a fun one for you today. We're going to talk about leucistic ball pythons and what that does and doesn't mean. I have here before you an array of leucistic or potentially leucistic animals. Okay? And I'm going to walk you through all these because genetically, these are dramatically different animals. All right? So we're going to talk about three different complexes. The only three that I know of in ball pythons that can create a pure white or leucistic animal. Okay? So we're going to talk about the fire complex or the black-eyed Lucies. We're going to talk about the super stripe complex, which is like yellow bellies and those types of things. And we're going to talk about the blue-eyed Lucies, the bells. Hopefully these guys cooperate for me and I'm not just fighting snakes back into a tub the whole time. So let's just jump right into it. First, I'm just going to, and I'm pulling some of this information from Morph Market just to make sure that I'm getting things right. They have super cool features on there. It's not just buying and selling snakes. There's a bunch of educational tools. It's really cool. In the black-eyed Lucy complex, you have Creed, Disco, and we're going to talk about Disco in this video, Fire, which is the most famous of the black-eyed Lucy snakes, Flame, Lemonback, Sulfur, and Vanilla. And Vanilla also is very well known and widely used in the hobby. In the, I think of it as the yellow belly complex, you've got Asphalt, Gravel, Spark, Spectre, and Yellow Belly. Okay? And we're going to talk about yellow bellies as well here. And then in the blue-eyed Lucy complex, which is the largest of them, and many of these are widely utilized in breedings, you've got Bamboo, something called Het Daddy that I've never seen before, Honey, Lesser, Mocha, Mojave, Mystic, Russo, and Special. And you'll notice that I did not list Butter because that is the same thing as Lesser, and I did not list Phantom because that is the same thing as Mystic. Now maybe people who originally thought they were different have kept them in different lines for so long that there are practical differences in those different genes now. That could be. But originally they were the exact same gene on the same locus. Hey, baby. So, let's jump into it. Now, I'm sure you've all noticed, not all these snakes are white. And some of them that are white aren't all the way white. So what's going on here? Well, let me first talk about the black-eyed Lucies, okay? So this snake with the most color here that you're seeing, this is actually a super disco. Obviously, the super form of disco does not have a white outcome. So something like a super fire is a white snake, although it's usually not perfect. So the first thing I want to talk about is that all these different genes in these complexes do different things. Some of them are extremely similar, but often in different combinations or in their super forms, they end up doing different things. Hey, baby. Oh, so beautiful. So, boop. Boop. My super disco here, her name's Vanessa. She is a super. Every single baby she produces will be disco, and disco is in the black-eyed Lucy complex, but clearly the super form is not white, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. If you're ever talking about, I want a leucistic snake, make sure the person understands you mean you want a white snake. They should get that when you talk about leucistic, but a lot of these are in a complex with other true leucistic genes, right? However, even then, all of these are incomplete dominant genes. So a single yellow belly or a single fire or a single lesser, none of those are white snakes. They all need their super form or a combo that has a white outcome. And some of them are more perfect than others, and we're going to talk about that. And when I say perfect, I just mean pure white, because I think, honestly, something like this leopard ivory right here, with color on her head, there's some yellow, there's some gray, almost a tinge of purple. I like that better than just a pure white snake. So we'll get into that. My whitest snake in here is definitely this guy. This is a Mystic Russo, which is fascinating because a super mystic is a very dark snake. This right here, if you can see who I'm looking at, that's a Mystic Potion. So that is a Mystic and a Mojave mixed together. And a super Mojave, and I know I'm going all over the place here, I'm really trying to drive home that there's still a ton of variation even in leucistic snakes. This is a super Mojave. You see the dark head, little bit of darkness down her dorsal, but not very much. So, just keep in mind, know what you're looking for before you just be like, oh, someone's got a super Mojave, that's what I want. Make sure you know that a super Mojave is not going to be as pure white, for example, as something like a Russo Lesser. A Russo Lesser is going to be extremely, as close to perfectly white as you can get in the Blue-Eyed Lucy complex. So just keep that in mind. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is that different genes might, in the same complex, might look exactly the same on their own as another one in the complex, but in combos they are clearly not the same. So, this can cause issues. I once bought a snake that was listed as a gravel, among other things, and it turned out to be a yellow belly. And there was no possible way for me to know that looking at it, because a gravel and a yellow belly side by side, despite what I've heard a few people claim, I don't know of any reliable way to actually tell apart a gravel from a yellow belly unless you get a genetic test, which only recently is even an option, right? And I wanted a gravel because I wanted to be able to make highways. And I couldn't because I needed gravel and I got yellow belly. And that's okay. But it set me back. So think about that. Keep that in mind. In the Blue-Eyed Lucy complex, some of these can be very, very distinct. Something like a bamboo is readily, easily told apart from others. But sometimes you might have trouble between like Mojave and Mystic, for example. Some of these do start to look very, very similar to each other. Which is why I'm not surprised that some people used to think, and still probably think, that something like a lesser and a butter are actually different genes, because they're just like, well, look, a lot of these look super similar. Why can't these be different genes? They have different origins. Well, turns out genetically they're not, but I can totally see how people might have thought that. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is that you do not need to view all of these genes as a project unto themselves. What do I mean by that? While I think every single one of these snakes is just beautiful and is worth pursuing on its own merit, if these don't interest you, that does not mean that there's no use in ever having these genes, because many or all of these can add something pretty spectacular. I got an escapee here. To other projects. So you don't need to be making a project built around Mojave or Disco or Yellow Belly. But if you add one or multiple of those genes to a clown or to a desert ghost, or, you know, if you're making a freeway project, I wish I had a female that was a Orange Dream, Leopard, Enchi, yellow belly, or super yellow belly, ivory, basically. So she had a ton of color. You know, there's really subtle color on my leopard ivory here. You can see the yellow down the back. But adding in more genes into a highway project or a freeway project or even an ivory project was just incredible. And that was just built around that complex. If you start to put that into pied or into a lot of other genes, and they don't have to be recessive, although a lot of them are, all of these genes do different things in these different projects, which is why there's just an unnumbered, endless supply of projects to be had in ball pythons, because there's hundreds of base genes which can combine into virtually infinite number of combinations. So just keep in mind that even if none of these snakes is exactly what you were hoping for, the genes might very well still be worth having, because they just add such a unique look to so many different combos, and there's so much yet to be discovered that they can do. Whether you're into the big hitters like pied or clown, or whether you're into more unique, I wouldn't say unique, but lesser pursued projects, all these genes here that you see before you could add something amazing, is my opinion. Now, there's things to keep in mind. The blue-eyed Lucies, all the genes in that complex tend to make high white pieds. So if you're trying to make a pied project and you're adding in a Mojave or a Special or a Russo, I mean, Special pieds are incredible, but they're usually very high white. So keep that in mind, that there's tendencies to all these things. But overall, I would say as well utilized and as widespread as these genes are, they are certainly not past their prime. There is so much more to be done with them. And yeah, so I just wanted to do a deep dive on leucistic snakes. I hope this was enjoyable. I sure enjoyed it. I love looking at these things and thinking about their genetics and planning out what I might do with them in the future. Let me know what of these you like the best, whether it's a pure white Mystic Russo, or the one with a lot of color, the Super Disco, or the Mystic Potion. And then here's an ivory, and my Super Mojave. All right, guys, that is all for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, we're the Reptile Barn.